Hi guys, I'm in a new location today because there's this festival on in Valencia and my dog is afraid of fireworks, so we've had to leave for a while. Um, so we did 2C-B-FLY the other night, me and a friend, and I think a lot of people say, I mean, the name is similar to 2CB, but it's not really that similar to 2CB. I've never actually done 2CB, I really want to, but it's not available like from labs anymore. You just have to buy it from dealers. And yeah, 2C-B-FLY is generally not as popular as 2CB. Certainly not as well known. Some people really like it, some people don't like it at all. It's a weird one in that regard. I think it's highly dose dependent. And but you can get it, you can buy it from labs and stuff, which is sort of why I wanted to try it, because it's quite easy to get. It's, obviously you can make sure it's like good quality. And yeah, I'd heard people say that it's, for example, at like 10 mg, it's more just like, it's kind of like stimulating and mildly euphoric and whatever. And then you go up to like 15 or 20 and it becomes more psychedelic. And past 20, it can become incredibly intense, like really quickly. It depends. I mean, for some people it's not, but for some people, for example, 25 mg is like crazy. Like you have like a really, sometimes a really bad trip, or it has a very high body load. So you'll often get very nauseous, or have stomach problems, or feel like really hot, or have chills. So it's a bit weird, like people don't know that much about it, what it's doing exactly. It's a little bit cold in here, sorry, that's why I'm talking a bit funny. But anyway, yeah. So I thought around 12 mg would be a perfect dose. Because some people did 10 mg and it just wasn't enough for them. It was underwhelming, but I also didn't really want to like trip heavily. I just wanted to kind of just like hang out and whatever. So I had to do volumetric dosing because my scales don't weigh like, I can't weigh anything really less than like 30 mg or 40 mg. So I weighed up 50 mg and I dissolved it in water, which took a really long time, probably because I used cold water, which is kind of stupid. And I just like kept shaking the bottle and I waited for a really long time and eventually it dissolved. So that was about 12.5 mg, I guess, roughly. Because I divided it into 4, obviously. I really enjoyed it. It was good. It wasn't strong at all. I wasn't tripping heavily. I didn't have many visuals. It was just a kind of, sorry, that's a dog. There was just a kind of mild, she's probably going to poke her head in a minute, a kind of mild visual enhancement to everything. I didn't have there weren't like strong traces or anything. It was more colour enhancement. It was nice though. It looked nice. Everything looked really nice on it. It was quite satisfying to kind of like look around at things. And everything had quite a nice glow to it. And I didn't feel much else other than that, like in terms of the sort of psychedelic aspect. There wasn't any kind of like head fuck to it, apart from a couple of things later on which I'll get to, but the most of it for me, it was just fun. Like, just kind of felt like, as some people have said, it felt like taking a very low dose of acid and a very low dose of MDMA and just kind of having a bit of a buzz and feeling a bit, and things were quite funny and it was just fun to talk about stuff. The only problem was my friend who I was doing it with, she had like a really bad UTI from it, or presumably from it, and that was quite like distracting and unpleasant for her. So it was sort of like it was a bit difficult it was just unpleasant basically, and that lasted for probably most of the peak of it, like probably for like 3 or 4 hours, and it started to kind of fade, but it was quite a bad one. So that was a bit difficult, but in spite of that, it was still really fun. Like we watched The Room, and I've seen it probably 10 times, but that was like the funniest experience of watching it for me, I think. Even though we actually watched it really recently, we watched it like a month ago or 2 months ago or something. We just decided to watch it again because we were talking about it so much. It was making us laugh just talking about it, and it was so funny to watch whilst tripping. Like, we weren't tripping heavily, but just whilst in that kind of mood, it was just so funny. Like, and definitely the best part of the trip. It was something really comforting about having it on, and just really like, and it kind of looked different. Like, looking at it was quite weird because of the kind of color enhancement and everything. Parts of it looked really good. But it was just so funny. Like, it was as if it was like kind of like the first time watching it. So that was amazing. And you were just hanging around chatting about shit, and it was really good. It was easy to. It wasn't like confusing. I wasn't confused at all at that dose. And then towards the end, it was a bit of a bad vibe, because the place we're in, basically, like, at the time the locks weren't working. And I fixed them now, and they do. But I hadn't done it yet because it wasn't long after we arrived. And the area is a bit like odd. It's a bit of a weird area, to be honest. Like, a lot of weirdos around. I had some weird interactions with people and stuff that day, like weird men and stuff, like sort of creepy. And when you're tripping, that is a bit weird. Like, it adds to a bit of a weird vibe, you know. And whoever's above is like, they're like. To be fair, it's a bit hypocritical because we were as well, but they were just up like all night, like pacing around like the whole night. And we assume it's a bit of a weird area. Basically, they probably lie on drugs or something, and obviously so were we. But it's like more of an occasional thing, and it's a bit of an odd coincidence if they were also just like tripping that night or something. It's probably more likely, like, you know, sort of business as usual for them, to be like fucking pacing around on that stuff. So anyway, yeah, and because I hadn't fixed these locks yet. It was just a bit like, when you're sober, it doesn't really bother you, but when you're tripping, you're just thinking like, oh, it's a bit weird that someone could just like, you know, like be in. It's quite hard to sleep like that. I don't know. I think a lot of people don't give a shit about that, but yeah, it was bothering us. And then also all the Ukraine stuff. It's a bit of a bad vibe, and we're sort of just thinking about that and thinking like about nuclear war and stuff and just everything. And so towards the end, it was a bit like, it wasn't terrible, but it was just a bit, yeah, we just felt a bit odd. And we decided to redose by snorting some, because you can snort it. But the problem is, as I said, my scales don't do less than about 30 or 40 mg. And really, I think to sniff like a booster dose, the aim was to do about 8 mg. But yeah, I couldn't measure that out, and I didn't want to do too much. I'd rather have done too little than too much. So I just kind of put out an amount that I knew was not too much, because I remembered what 50 mg looked like, and I thought, right, this is way less than that. But the problem was then we just kept doing little bits and thinking, okay, that didn't do anything. Let's do a bit more. And then we just kept doing tiny amounts, and it never really did anything. I've heard some people say that they sniffed a booster dose and it was like incredible, but this didn't really do anything. Maybe felt a tiny bit different, but didn't like bring visuals on or anything like that. And it didn't feel particularly like great. It was all right. We just stayed up for a bit longer, and it's probably pointless. We probably should have just gone to bed earlier, really, because we were up till like 7. But it was easy to sleep still, and we slept probably only 5 or 6 hours after that booster dose. You know, we were asleep, but it was late. We did sleep late, but we started very late. We started at 7, and yeah, some people say they still feel it the next day. I think that's at bigger doses. I don't feel anything now, so yeah. But overall, it was good. Yeah, like, we're planning on doing it again, because it wasn't too heavy on your system or anything, like, only again because we stayed up so late. But we're thinking if we started it at about 1 and tried to go to bed before 4, or like, you know, around 3 or whatever, that would be much better, just to stay in a kind of normal routine, and to have a long day of tripping would probably be really fun. And hopefully there's no more like weird physical symptoms like the UTI and stuff. I mean, I did a mental shit this morning, like absolutely mad, and some people say that it fucks up their stomach a bit for a few days, so it is quite intense on your body in a way. But that didn't bother me on the night at all. I didn't have any problems really on the night. I felt good. I had felt like a good kind of body high from it. I was enjoying just like lying around and sitting. It was that feeling you get sometimes at the start, I guess, of like an acid trip, where you feel a bit sort of, maybe a tiny bit sick, you know, you get like a lot of saliva in your mouth and you have a slightly odd feeling, but it feels kind of nice. Like, I always find that on acid, like when it's starting, like, it feels nice to just sit down and to just like look at the TV or whatever, or just to like sit and talk. Like, it feels quite comfortable. And I had that feeling for most of it. It was nice. So yeah, I'm sure it's not as good as 2C-B, because from everything I've heard about that, that's amazing. But it was definitely still really good, still worth doing. And if probably we should have waited, but it was generally it was a good experience. Not like my favourite trip ever, but good. So yeah, it's worth trying if the opportunity presents itself. But not that I have experience at higher doses, but I would definitely still say, like, from what I've read, it's worth starting with low doses and working your way up very slowly, because some people do like 15 mg and they think, oh, that was fine, and then they go up to 20. Or it's more likely people kind of do like, around 20 mg and then they think that's fine and they go up to 25 mg. And also there's probably a difference of a few milligrams. Like, your measurements will probably be off a little bit, because most scales, even good ones, don't really weigh accurately to the milligram. And then you do like 25 mg thinking you were fine with 20, and it's like an enormous difference. It's like a totally different experience, and for some people it's really uncomfortable. So I think it's one people should be careful with, and there's not much info about it online. But yeah, overall, good. Right, chaps. Got Luna here with me today. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm not very close to the mic. Say hello, Luna. Say hello, puppy. Yes. She's she's been sat behind me licking her own vagina, so hopefully she doesn't do that in this video. Anyway, so we did 2C-B-FLY again. Let me budge over so you can see a bit of Luna while I'm talking. You can't really see her, can you? It's not really working. We did it again. We did 2C-B-FLY again a couple of days ago. It was actually only a few days after having done it the first time, and it worked, I'd say, almost as well. There wasn't much tolerance, but my friend who I did it with, she got really ill again. It was kind of stupid to do it again, obviously, but since she recovered completely the first time, we just thought maybe it was just a bad reaction, maybe something else caused the UTI or whatever. So we did it again, and immediately she had an even worse UTI than before. We don't know if it was a UTI, whatever it was like extreme bladder irritation, which is weird because there's not really any reports of that online. There are reports of people having a bit of a bad stomach and just having a bad time on it physically. She's not really doing anything. I'm going to go back to the middle. And just kind of, generally having a bit of a bad time with it physically. But there's not a whole lot of reports of, there's no reports of people having like UTI type symptoms. So that was kind of weird. I loved it. I didn't have much of a tolerance. It still felt really good. It was really enjoyable. I'd say it was probably about 70. It was probably about 70% as strong. The dose was identical, and it was probably about 70 or 80% as strong. The first time we did it on Monday, and then this time we did it on Friday. So yeah, there wasn't much of a gap. At a low dose of around, I guess it was around 12.5 mg. There's no confusion. There's no weird shit. You don't feel paranoid or anything like that. It's just pretty fun, chilled out psychedelic, really. The visual enhancement is really nice. We were watching a lot of Ainsley's Caribbean Kitchen, which is one of my favourite shows, and the colours in that are already really nice. I mean, they fucking crank the saturation right up with that shit. It's like ridiculous. It's an ITV show, so there's not much kind of like... I wouldn't say journalistic integrity because it's not journalism. I don't know what, but there's not much emphasis on realism. Like, they just crank up all the Caribbean colours, so it's kind of like psychedelic as it is, but it's really nice to look at. It's a really pleasant show to watch. We were watching that and it looked fucking great, and like it was just really fun in general. Obviously, we did more than that, like we didn't just fucking watch Ainsley's Caribbean Kitchen all night. Well, we didn't do anything particularly, more exciting than that. It's not like we went out or anything. But yeah, basically we just sat around watching stuff, listening to music, hanging out. We don't really have good speakers here, so we're mostly just watching TV. And then later on we decided to snort some. And again, my friend had a horrible reaction to it. Like, she was instantly in agony, like in complete agony in this side where she snorted it, and her eye was like really inflamed and red. And I found it painful to snort. It's not nice at all to snort. It stings quite a lot, and not in a nice way. It's kind of like horrible. But I didn't find it to be that bad. She was like freaking out. I think because she started coming up from it and she was tripping and it was making her freak out a bit, and she thought that she was like going blind or something, which is kind of funny because she was fine. Like, she was obviously fine. It was just inflamed and her eye was watering a lot. And that does happen to some degree when you snort drugs, but it was surprising that from such a small amount that happened. And the fact that she started then tripping more was like not helpful. And the UTI got really bad, and like, it was kind of a stressful night, to be honest. It would have been fun, but that stuff was, so she's not going to do it again. I don't think she can take it anymore. If anyone else has had this experience, please let me know in the comments, like, or if there's any way of mitigating it, because apart from that, we really enjoyed it. But the UTI stuff, the bladder stuff, was just a bit much. But yeah, I personally, my experience of it, like, I really, really like it. I think it's amazing. It's at a low dose. I've heard that higher doses are a bit rough. It does make me feel maybe a tiny bit sick or something, or a bit like, I don't know, really, can't describe the feeling. A bit off, but I really enjoy the buzz from it. It feels really good. It's nice and mild and like subtly trippy, but not really. Just, yeah, good visuals and a nice sort of feeling of like mild euphoria and chattiness, and things are funny. I probably prefer it to 4-Homet. I'd say, like, for example, a really good acid trip is better than 2C-B-FLY, but it's quite easy for me to have a bad one. And 2C-B-FLY is a bit more like, I don't know, there's an underlying feeling of a bit more of a sort of serotogenic feeling underlying it. I would say, though, it's quite moreish. Like, even after she had that experience with her nose, she kept wanting to do more. And even though, while it was going on, while her nose was all like inflamed and shit, I mean, I think it was fine, but it was just very, very painful, obviously. And her eye was just like all like red and shit. We were just like, you should just never have this again. And I was thinking, like, I'm going to throw it away, because this stuff's obviously bad. And I haven't thrown it away, because I want to do it again myself. But at the time I was thinking that, and she was like, yeah, I can just never have this again. I can never have it again. And then like an hour later, she wanted to have more. And I was like, we can't go through all that again. It was just too much. And I wanted to have more as well. We didn't, for obvious reasons, but I wanted to. It is quite moreish is what I'm getting at, basically, like in the way that drugs like MDMA and stuff are. Like, I really wanted more. And even today, weirdly, it's like 2 days since we took it. Today's Sunday. What are you whinging about, Luna? I'm going to tell you in a minute. Oh, she's yawning. Even today, it's Sunday, we took it on Friday. I like could really go for some today, and I'm not going to do it because it'd be stupid, and I've got work tomorrow and shit. But like, earlier I was thinking, I could just like, have a line of it. It's quite moreish in a surprising way for a psychedelic, and I would say I don't feel fantastic today. I mean, to be fair, we were sleep deprived a bit from it. We did stay up very late, especially because of all the weird shit she had going on. Like, we were up quite late. But yeah, it feels kind of addictive in a way. More so, for example, if I did acid, and even if I had a good time, I wouldn't be thinking on a Sunday, I really want to do that again. I just wouldn't be thinking about it really. But this stuff, it's kind of like, I don't know, I guess the fact that you can sniff it, and the fact that it's quite euphoric, I don't know what, but yeah, it's a little I find it surprisingly like sort of moreish or addictive, or whatever is the appropriate term for it. But yeah, it's good. It's definitely good. I don't fully trust it as a substance, I must say. The fact that it gave both of us like terrible shits, and it really burns when you snort it, and not that many people have taken it, and the fact that she had all these bladder symptoms is a bit weird. But that's just drugs, really, in it, to some degree. Like, that's just kind of what happens. So I don't know. Yeah, I would like to try it again in some other kind of context. I think at a low dose it could be fun, even for like going out and doing things. And yeah, I think it's good. I liked it overall, definitely. I'll take this dog out now. Hi guys, I'm back home now. So yeah, did 2C-B-FLY a third time with a friend, and I really, really love this stuff. I think it's amazing. I think my other friend I did it with, I think, just had an unfortunate reaction to it. It's maybe like allergic to it or something. But I did it with someone else the other day, and neither of us had any kind of bad physical reaction, apart from like a bit of stomach upset, like slightly weird shits. But it wasn't it wasn't a problem. It wasn't unpleasant. It was just like same thing, same sort of thing. It happens on a lot of drugs. Very minor. And the stuff itself, yeah, it's just really fun. Like at low doses, I still haven't done a high dose, and I don't really intend to go that much higher. But at like around 15 mg, it just feels really light-hearted and fun and funny, and it gives you good energy. It was like a really funny day, a lot of laughing, like we were walking around, felt good, had a lot of energy. It was really bad weather, and neither of us were bothered by it at all. It was like pissing it down a lot, and we were just walking around and enjoying it, and felt fine the next day. It's really, really good stuff, actually. I really like it. It's like a good way of getting kind of a lot of the good parts, a lot of the good social parts of an acid trip without maybe some of the unwanted aspects or the kind of the difficulty of doing acid, the kind of like intensity and potential weirdness of the trip. I found it to be really, really good. So yeah, I'll probably be doing it again. I'll probably slightly up the dose a little bit, but not much. I'm curious to try it with weed because I've heard that's amazing. So I'll probably do that soon. But yeah, I just wanted to do a quick third update for this video, just because it was really enjoyable the other day, and I'm quite convinced by this stuff now. I think it's really good, and it feels fairly. I don't know. I feel fine after taking it, basically. So yeah, that's all.